official WFISD Athletic Podcast. I'm MJ Baird. With me, my co-host, the man I always look up to, Grant Freeman. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Fantastic. Happy Monday.
Yeah, I'm thrown off a little bit. Our recording schedule got a little changed this week, so
we were supposed to do this
sleepy.
every Wednesday, and then last week we did a Tuesday, and this week it's a Monday, and next week's Thanksgiving week. So
yeah, we said Wednesday, and we've done one Wednesday.
So
Sunday next week.
Probably.
Happening.
And then here's a guy who is the voice of Memorial Stadium, also the WFISD technology specialist and the producer of this podcast, Chad Johnson. Chad, how are you?
Good. Have a good weekend?
Yes, sir. Always.
It's good.
We still don't have a name, do we?
I just went with the official WFISD Athletics podcast.
Okay.
I was trying to workshop the, such and such experience.
Going with the experience or
It
project.
didn't work.
It needs to naturally come to us, and maybe 1 week it just bang.
Okay, now that I'm down to one job, I'll workshop that.
Great transition.
You like that?
Great
didn't you?
transition.
You like that?
Because the first thing we have to start with this week is high school football, and week one of the playoffs means some teams lose, their season ends, other teams win, and they're on to the area round. So you brought it up. You're down to one job, meaning your coaching days, I don't want to say officially over, but you are now full-time AD as the Coyotes season came to a close. Thoughts?
I will say this. You can get close to calling it. My wife keeps telling me that it's not official yet. It's pretty close. It's not.
Okay.
It's 96%. I'm not walking back on that sideline, and all referees are excited for that. Man, what a game. Last Thursday night in Childress, we were the 4 seed going against Canyon, the 1 seed coming out. We jumped all over them early. Took a 26 to, I believe it was, I can't even remember the score at halftime because there was an untimed down that they scored on going into half. So it was like 26 to 15 going into halftime, and hung on and tried to keep the water from getting in the boat. And about the end of the third quarter, the tide changed. And again, credit to our guys. Our coaching staff had our kids ready. We had a good plan against them. They were really good. They were a district champion in a tough district for a reason. And they overtook us in the fourth quarter, but it's not because we didn't fight, and it's not because our kids didn't come out and play. And you knew, and I think I said this to Jonathan Hall after the game, is you knew a proud program wasn't going to go out without a fight.
Right.
And our kids showed that, and something to be proud of. And now it's, we closed the chapter on that one.
And we're not even going to be able to do it justice here in just a few minutes on this podcast.
Correct.
But your thoughts, being the last coach of the Coyotes, I mean, we're talking about one of the most storied programs in the state of Texas.
It was really hard. I got asked that question a lot after the game to put it into words. And it's almost one of those, and I know this is cliche, but I couldn't find the right words, and that's weird for me because normally I do well at talk. I couldn't find the right words for it, and it really just was one of those things where you talk about it all year, it's coming, and then when the time comes, there just aren't words for it. You kind of, it's one of those that you guys, when we do TV, sometimes you just let it breathe, and that's really what it was. And again, I've said multiple times over how proud I am and how big of a deal it was for me personally to be able to lead this program, but also to finish this program out. And, I feel like we did it the right way over the last 7 years. We put a product out there that Coyote fans can be proud of. Yeah. And, again, five playoff trips in the last 7 years, a state quarterfinal appearance last year, I think we won 5 playoff games in that 7 years. And, those kids did it the right way, and that program did it the right way, and it went out the right way.
Chad, you're the local guy, right? I mean, I've been here for a handful of years. Grant's been here some time as well. But can you provide a little, maybe context into the Coyotes and just your lifespan and before?
Well, I mean, growing up, it was the Coyotes. Mm-hmm. I grew up when I first started watching football, it was mid-'80s.
Yeah.
They were running, Joe Bob Tyler was coaching, they were running the single wing and perennial playoff powers back then. So, I think if you grew up in Wichita Falls around the time frame that I grew up in, it was Coyote football. It evolved later when I went to a different school and kids went to a different school. But like I say, you grew up in my time period. It was all Coyote football, and it was. I tell people all the time the Coyotes were my first favorite team.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of people probably my age, obviously older, would probably agree with that sentiment.
Yeah.
They were just growing up, you wanted to be a Coyote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we put one chapter to bed, but yet again, we've got, the last basketball season and the last softball season, the last track season, all these things. So certainly a recurring theme throughout the year, but as for football, it's closed.
Yeah. And that's the thing, there's going to be a day coming up that it's the last day of school at Wichita Falls High School. Again, when something is coming to a close, when you're writing a book, you got to finish the book.
Right.
And at some point, it's going to be the end for all of us and for everything. And, this just has a final date on it. And, that's one of those things where we pin the end of the book and you close it. And then you get to open it on something new, and that's what's really cool for us here in Wichita Falls ISD is the book is not the end. The end of the book's not the end.
Right.
You get to start something new, and so that's what we're excited for.
And you mentioned, the one great thing with successful programs, we don't know what the end days are going to be for these programs, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be you show up on a Friday night, we continue or we don't. It's a sudden stop or it's a continue.
It's a good and a bad, I'll tell you. I was a little more prepared for the, the last home game or the last regular season game. You just don't ever know. But that's the beauty of the playoffs is you just don't know when you're going to coach that last game or when that last game is going to be. And, there were times last week where we thought, well, we'll play another one. We'll play another one, see what happens. But, again, hats off to Canyon High, and they did a great job.
Well, I can tell you, I was sitting in the press box working the Vernon Paradise game. I was almost more into checking my phone for old high score updates than I was the game in front of me.
Right. Now, I remember you telling us last week, Coach, you said, I think we match up well against them. And you told me, you said, we put a scare into them.
Yeah, it's matchups. I mean, when you get in the playoffs, it's 100% matchups. Don't look at seeds, don't whatever. And I know that sometimes we have to do that, because we have to have stuff to talk about or we have to be able to set lines on games. But it is all matchups when it comes to that, and we matched up well against them. They were going to be able to do some things that they got around to doing in the fourth quarter that they had not done for 3 quarters that gave us problems, and it just took them a little bit longer to figure it out.
Speaking of matchups, Ryder had a favorable one. El Paso Burgess comes to Wichita Falls and, quite honestly, gets blown out. The talent disparity was huge. Ryder romps. What did you think?
Yeah, here's the thing. So we talk about there's always been the argument with the UIL for allowing the 4th playoff team. We're a good argument for keeping the 4th. That's an argument for not having one.
Sure.
And, again, when you've got to go 8+ hours to play a game like that, it's tough, and you feel for those kids. And but when you're the 4 seed and you have to go to that's a huge advantage of being able to host that game as a 1 or 2 seed in 5A and 6A. And again, Ryder. We talked about this last week a little bit. They've got to make sure that they stay focused, and Coach Bendel's got to do a good job of keeping that group focused because the Lubbock High game, the last game, and to this game, really the game was not in doubt early in that game. And so trying to keep your kids locked in because this week Lake Dallas is a team that could jump up and beat you if you're not prepped for them, and if you're out of focus and you haven't played a close game in a while. I think since the Abilene-Wiley game was their last actual close game. Right. And even at that, we tend to spread that one out. Yeah, pulled away late. So, again, Ryder's playing well right now. That should be more of the focus is playing well right now. And then they've got some good games coming up.
I think they were, for three touchdowns out of the first 6 possessions. I know, MJ, you texted you were running late, and you're like, they've already scored 2 touchdowns, and I'm not even there yet.
So, my industry, we're running around all the time and constantly running late. I get that. But I was on my way from KFDX Studios to Memorial Stadium watching the game or listening on YouTube. It's 4:01. The game started at 4. 4:01. Ryder has a touchdown.
I was going to say, you walked down. I was in the end zone, and you walked down to stand by me, and it was already 28, and they were about to score again when you walked in.
Lesson learned.
Wasn't that? I mean, that's right. It was like 4:11, and it was 28.
I think
nothing, and it made it 35.
I think you got there for the 3rd touchdown.
The 3rd one I think I made. I think it was 15-0 when I walked down.
That's right.
But I almost missed the 3rd touchdown because it was like the next play.
Right.
Luckily, it was in that end zone.
Correct. If I had to run the other length of the field, the north end,
you wouldn't have got it.
I wouldn't have got it.
So I think it was 3 touchdowns in their first 6 plays, 5 plays, 6 plays, something like that. I know Kinchy had 3 carries, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Well, and that was the thing is
good defense.
It was offense really hit you, and then they ate them up on special teams because I think they blocked the first 3 punts or something like that. Again, field position was just a booger. So, hats off to Ryder and move on. And that's again, it doesn't matter how you win. If you win by 100 or you win by 1, you survive in advance.
I'm trying to look this up now. It's Mineral Wells, 7 o'clock Friday against Lake Dallas.
You could ask me. I set that up.
Oh, attaboy. Guess I don't need to look this thing up. I got this guy for me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the third WFISD school, Hershey. They get the bi-district win again at home. They beat Benbrook, and again, a game where it was never really in doubt.
No, and, again, Benbrook comes out of that district as a four seed, but at times they could have been a 2 and possibly a 1. So they were a little bit not a enigma, but just something that you didn't really know a lot about. They could come out and play really well, and Hershey dominated the line of scrimmage. Didn't score in the first 6 plays like Ryder did, but did a good job of grinding out a good win. They did it with defense. They did it with the run game, and that's really the formula when you get into the playoffs is a good defense, a good run game, and then be able to be explosive when you have to, which is also what Ryder does as well. And so they've got a good formula for success.
When you give Jamel that much time and there's nothing open and it gives him a lane to take off running in, you're done.
And that's the thing, like, again, and I go back to, and I'm going to say this and then critique myself, but, one of the things that made us so successful last year was a defense that gave up 12 points a game, a running game that traveled, and then we could be explosive when we had to. We were the opposite of that this year. We were explosive, couldn't run the ball when we had to, and couldn't stop people when we had to. And so that's why we're out early, and these guys are in late. And if you look at all the playoff teams, I would say 4A, 5A, 6A, that's what you get.
Hershey gets Seminole next, and to be honest, I know nothing about them. Do you know anything?
So Seminole used to be had a little bit of flair to local flair to them. Kent Jackson, who used to be at Olney, it was the coach out there. They were running a lot of wing tee, some different slot tee, wing tee kind of stuff. I do not know what they're doing now, just to be honest with you. But they were the champion of their district, and they won their non-district game 77-14. So they did play Pecos, however, but. Again, Coach Johnson and I have talked a little bit, again, if we go down there, handle our business, not to disparage any opponent, but if we'll handle our business, we should be fine.
7 o'clock Friday, City, Colorado City.
Little Frank Johnson era.
Yeah, that's where he used to coach. That's exactly right.
Colorado City's got a great field, and whenever you're trying to, finding playoff sites is just a nightmare in those first couple of rounds. Yeah. So we were still working as of like midnight the other night trying to find a site for that game and getting everybody to agree on everything. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's funny. You guys think about it from that perspective. We think about it, okay, where are the games? Can we get to them? Mm-hmm. So if I'm not mistaken, C-City
How good is their internet?
That matters too.
Bad.
C-City is what, west of Abilene, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Windthorst plays in Abilene Thursday.
Okay.
And then Hershey Friday. So we're talking about potentially me going out Thursday.
Slumber party
in Abilene. Yes, okay. Exactly. So we'll see if that comes to fruition.
All right.
But that is the tentative plan.
And I'll tell you what, you mentioned, Benbrook gave Hershey some trouble. They had a little bit of a thunder and lightning in the backfield, and I would just happen to notice their roster: quarterback sophomore, their feature running back freshman, the big running back sophomore. So
watch out.
They've got some things to build on with Cody Slater, former Hershey coach.
Yeah, he's done a good job there. The biggest thing in the Fort Worth ISD is keeping your kids in your school all the way through.
Sure. All right. 8 other Texoma teams still fighting in the 2023 postseason. Of course, Ryder and Hershey. Then we've also got Graham, Jacksboro, Holiday, Cityview, Windthorst, Benjamin, Newcastle, and Knox City. So if we can just go through these real quick. Graham, of course, they were in Hershey's district. We expect them to be where they are, potentially meeting back up with Hershey again in the regional final, I guess it would be.
They get to play Canyon West Plains this week. Congratulations.
West Plains is good.
West Plains beat Canyon High by 40.
Wow.
They're a classification below. Congratulations. I'll just put it that way.
Okay.
That's the team to avoid in Region 1.
Sure. So potentially, if we get a good matchup there, we can get good highlights for TV because that's
how
matters.
that's how big that Hershey Graham game was.
It was huge.
Sure.
That's the difference.
Just to avoid West Plains in the second round.
In the second round. That's a big deal.
Okay. All right, Jacksboro, 3A, undefeated, 11-0. They just seem to be cruising, but they keep winning games like 50-45. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if that can hold up in the playoffs. Holiday, new coach, still back where they kind of are usually. Eventually, you would think they'd get back to a regional final and run into Gunter. We'll see if that happens again.
Potential Holiday Jacksboro meeting day
Next
after
week?
Thanksgiving, yeah.
Okay. That'd be sweet. We love the two local teams. That's great for TV. City View gets Gunter this week after a win last week.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
That's going to be our new phrase. Congratulations. Yeah.
Print the shirts.
Windthorst, again, 2A program that just, continually gets to this point in the playoffs and beyond. So we'll see if they continue it. Benjamin, number 1 team in the state, defending state champs, likely to beat Newcastle. They're actually playing a local team. So Newcastle's had a great season. They're, I think, 7th in the state. But,
Benjamin's.
But the difference between the first place team in 6A and the 7th place team in the state will be a 45-1 run rule.
What's your word?
Congrats.
Newcastle, congratulations.
Print the shirts.
And then
Grayson Rigdon, I'm telling you, if you've not watched much 6-man football, Grayson Rigdon, that kid, he does a little bit of everything, and he makes it look easy.
I have not seen anyone I shoot a lot of games during a given season. In the last 4 years, I've not seen anyone in the Class 1A world who even wants to try to tackle him, which is half the battle because the opposing team shows up knowing they've already lost the game. And at that point, Rigdon just dances around, scores, and has fun doing it.
So correct me if I'm wrong. He's a junior, right?
Correct.
So freshman year, he won state at Strawn.
Correct.
Was game MVP.
Correct.
Last year, won state at Benjamin, was state championship game MVP. Correct. Any reason to believe he won't be?
Zero reason to believe.
How does that this is an interesting question because it might be in a whole other segment. How does that translate, you guys think, to 11-man?
We talk about it all the time. When I say we, media, Tobin and I. I think at like the 2A level, 11-man football, I think he's like a stud athlete. I think he probably plays linebacker and, running quarterback / running back. However, I think people actually can tackle him at the 2A level.
He'd struggle at the higher levels. I think, like you said, I think he'd be pretty good 2A, maybe 3A, but I think he'd struggle at the higher levels.
The open space in 6-man is where he thrives. He just jives around and makes you miss. There's not as much open space when there's 22 guys on the field. So I don't see it translating to 3A football. 2A, sure.
Yeah, we always talk about that. It's just so interesting because, again, at the Texoma Awards last summer, he sat at our table, and then I had a couple of my guys there, Aiden Ramirez and Cameron Gould, and it's just the difference in body type and speed type, just very different.
Yes, so, most definitely. He's a 6-man football god. Let's put it that way. Okay, and then Knox City also probably going to make a run to state this year. They've impressed me all year long, but they do have a tough matchup this week. I'm forgetting who it is. Let's see here. Command F is my best friend. Yeah, they play Happy, and so Happy's a good team as well, state ranked.
Will they be happy when the game is over?
Knox City will be.
Oh.
Very good.
That was just a softball.
Sorry.
Last football we can talk about here from last week would be Midwestern State as their season comes to an end. Not a good season by this program's standards. 4-6, fewest win total since 1999, fewest win total under head coach Bill Maskell, and I couldn't believe this, only their second sub-500 season in Maskell's 23 years.
Well, up until a couple of years ago, they had the longest run in NCAA, Division I, II, or III of consecutive winning seasons. I think his first losing season was just 2 or 3 years ago. So
well, and man, that's a credit to him.
Yeah.
23 years, 2 sub-500 seasons, and I mean it's really one game off of that.
Yeah.
Get out of here, man. Like you're not going to see that. One, you don't see college coaches stay at a place 23 years.
True.
So credit to the administration for staying and believing, but 2, somebody that's that successful for that long a time. And that's just, it's weird that we have to talk about it on the bad end of it, but again, I'm going to just go ahead and throw my chips in to say I'm going to bet they're not under 500 next year.
I came here in 2019, and that was the first year.
That was the first one, yeah.
Chad. So maybe it's me. I've seen 2 of their 2 sub-500 seasons. So Bill Maskell probably wouldn't mind if I just, got the heck on.
Well, and
I
think if I remember right, and the common denominator to both seasons is no quarterback both of those seasons.
I don't remember 2019 all that well. I didn't get here till November, so the season was
well, I'll tell you what,
over.
You talk about, me being a long-time Wichita. I mean, he stabilized that program when he came in because they were coming. I mean, what they had before was not a program that I'd say that MSU, Wichita Falls, would be proud of. I mean, a lot of off-the-field stuff.
Sure.
Maskell came in, and, I mean, not only did he make them a team that was winning on the field, but a team that the community could be proud of. And I think that's a big deal in a community like this.
No doubt.
And let me just say this just to throw on the top of it, and does it with a very low athletic budget. I mean, He finds kids.
Facts are
he
facts.
Gets them there, and he wins. And there's something to be said for that.
Chad, going back to the quarterback point, I think they rolled out 3 different quarterbacks across 11 weeks this year. If they stabilize that, I would agree with you, Grant.
Yeah.
Not a sub-500 team next year. All right, from football to basketball at Midwestern State, because it is basketball season, I wanted to just talk about the women's basketball team real quick. So they got a new head coach this year.
Okay.
Bernita Jackson is her name. She came over from Texas Wesleyan, and she brought with her a few of her players from that roster. It's effectively a whole new roster for the MSU.
And
women.
her husband's her assistant, correct?
That is correct.
Awesome.
Kevin, I believe. Kevin
Sounds
Jackson.
like a fun home life.
Sure, absolutely. I'm sure she's talked about that. We got to have her on the podcast.
Awesome.
Talk about that. But one of the players that she brought over by the name of Zaria Carter dropped 34 and 18 in her second game as a Mustang.
Yeah.
And obviously great stats. Unfortunately, MSU lost the game. Adams State scored 102 and Midwestern lost. But just to put it into historical context a little bit, 34 and 18, right? Talk about the 30-15 club. Carter, only the 5th player ever to do that. So that's at least 30 points and at least 15 rebounds. The first since 2001. Mm-hmm. And I know we don't typically do this with basketball stats, but if you add up the points and the rebounds, so 34 and 18, that's 52. In all of the double-doubles in MSU history, no one's had 52 combined.
Okay.
50 was the most. It was like a 40-point, 11-rebound performance. So I guess that's 51. Good math, MJ. So 52 is the highest. So she's an impact player for MSU, and she wears number 0. She's got this awesome pink hair.
Yeah.
I loved getting the shots of her hair the other night for video purposes, because someday we're going to do a story on her, and we're going to want those artistic shots.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you started spitting out numbers, my eyes glossed over, but I mean, all that's impressive.
34
that's
and 18.
Outstanding. So,
What a game.
I mean, new coach coming in, new players, and let's go.
Where are they projected, MJ?
You know what? I don't know where they picked in the preseason poll. I know they're 0-2 to start, but certainly from what I've seen through 2 games, a little more pep in their step, maybe playmakers that they haven't had in the past. So hopefully
a fun brand of basketball to watch is what you're saying.
Most definitely. Men's soccer at Midwestern State, real quick. They just three-peated as Lone Star Conference tournament champions. I mean, men's soccer at MSU, always nationally ranked, always a national contender in the NCAA tournament. And it just seems like,
right?
Yeah, they're rolling again. The 17-game winning streak, longest in program history. They're 19-0-1.
Wow.
It's awesome, man. Coach Meacham doing a great job.
As always, love it. And last thing, if we can, for our local stuff, Christ Academy Volleyball in the last week has won its 4th straight state championship, Capital D Dynasty.
That's awesome. And they aren't scared to play all of our teams here. They get a lot of run early in the year in non-district schedules, so great for them. Good job, Christ Academy.
Moving on to some more regional stuff, we'll start with college football. Michigan minus Harbaugh. Meets. Yeah, they did meet Penn State, and they beat them as well in Happy Valley. Thoughts?
Told you last week that, I mean, Penn State always flashes up into the top 10 for no dang reason under James Franklin, and then they always flash right back out. And case in point, right there. They somehow people think that they are a powerhouse, and they're really just, I don't know, they're really just the team that they like to put on national TV, but they cannot play at that level.
All right, Coach Freeman, I have a question for you.
Okay.
How big of a deal is this sign stealing stuff?
So here's what I'll tell you. Again, I haven't dove into it very much, but I will tell you this. Every coach at every level will sit, and I mean, if you are signaling, they're going to figure it out, or
Right.
However, by the end of the game, some quicker than others. If you only have one signaler, it doesn't take long. We've got guys, again, on our staff that are really fast with figuring it out. But I do think there is something big to say about going and videoing the signalers, or being there where you can see the signalers and then matching that up to film. I think that is – do we have that sometimes? Can we see signalers sometimes when we trade film? Yes, you can. But in order to match all that up, be able to really get that communicated to your kids, I just think that's something else. But I do think video and signalers and then matching it up to film with the amount of staff that we now have in Division I programs, I just think that's a no-no. Trade the film, scout the traded film, go on, prep your team to play, and move forward. I will tell you this, and to finish on Harbaugh, I have run a program for 7, 8 years now. And I will say this, it is laughable to say that he did not know what was going on.
Right.
You know everything that goes on behind those closed doors. And if you don't know, that's why, again, with some of the other scandals that have come up, they always try to keep the head coach out of it. But if you don't know, then why are you the head coach?
I think that's where my problem is that I don't know. Almost just admit it. I mean, they've got video of coaches on the sidelines with the other team's hand signals on laminated play cards. Harbaugh doesn't know that?
Like I said.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Again, you're either coaching it or allowing it. So take that however you want.
Chad, what happened to OSU after Bedlam?
Man.
UCF just pounds them, 45-3.
I've heard of hangovers, but I think that's just more than a hangover, just not prepared to play.
And UCF first Big 12 win? Is that what?
No, second. They beat Cincy, who hasn't won any.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations.
There's the word.
Print the shirts.
They couldn't do anything. I mean, it was like, why did they even fly to Orlando?
Yeah,
it was brutal.
They went to Disney World.
My daughter was in town, and we actually weren't watching the game, and she flipped it. She's like, "Daddy, it's already 7-0." I look at it and like, "Hey, it's already 14-0." So it was.
Woo.
I believe last week when I brought up the Texas TCU game, Grant, you said, quote, yawn.
Yawn. And I still say yawn. I watched the game. Did you watch the game?
I did not watch
yawn. Here's the deal, man. Like, Texas, they're going to flare out. They're going to score some points. They're going to let them back in. I just don't think they're in a playoff top 6 to 7 team conversation. Okay. I just don't. Like,
Fair.
They've got they're a little bit better than, some of these schools like a Penn State that flares up into it. They just can't finish for whatever reason. I don't know whatever the it is that they can't just finish, but they're a good football team. They'll be in a New Year's Six bowl, but not a playoff team.
So here's the debate. They win out. Alabama wins out. Both end up winning conference championships. They're both sitting there for that 4-5 seed. Who gets the 4 seed?
If I'm sitting on the committee, it's Alabama.
Okay.
And I know head-to-head does mean something. It does to me, but to me, the way that the committee works, the reason they added to a committee like with March Madness is you need the team that is playing the best at that time. The Texas-Alabama game was in September. I mean, they're just totally different teams. Yours has been off the field, back on the field. They've lost some different people. All of those things. Alabama has figured it out, which you knew they would, because good coaches coach for the end of their year instead of just the beginning of their year. And I just think Alabama would be – well, let's ask it this way. Who do you think would be more likely to beat the 1 seed?
Alabama
or Texas? Yeah, again, so to me that's an easy way to do that.
How mad are Longhorns fans, though, if that happens? Oh, my goodness.
And I think they have a little bit of a beef. I've always been a big head-to-head proponent because to me, my argument has always been why have an incentive to play that game in September when you can play it if then at the end of the year it doesn't mean anything?
Well, but let me ask it this way. If Quinn Ewers is out for the season, do you still feel like that win is the same win?
No.
So that's what I'm saying is
right.
I just think you take the team that's playing the best.
And I tell you what, them winning out is, they got primetime in Ames Saturday night. And I tell you, not that Iowa State's a great team, but it seems like Ames is always a place where good Big 12 seasons go to die.
Yeah,
and again, let's remember, for Alabama to win out means they have to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. Yeah. So would you rather have a Alabama team coming off a win? I think they're the better team right now.
Sure.
Then if they go to Atlanta and beat Georgia, and you're taking a Texas team that might make it and play Oklahoma, who cares? They stink. They shouldn't have lost to them anyway. So
love it. And then last one I have on here is the boys from Lubbock, the Red Raiders, upsetting Kansas in a low-scoring affair, 16-13.
Low scoring and horrible game to watch. I think Kansas was on their third quarterback at times because they lost their starter early, like in the season. They were on their backup who could fly. And he was more of a runner than a passer, and then he got knocked out of the game. So they were on this random walk-on third-string kid. The only thing that was really cool about the Tech game was getting to see Jacob Rodriguez back on the field and play and contrip and make a lot of tackles.
He had a couple of – I know they had a 4th and goal.
Yeah, stops.
He shot in there and disrupted it. And, with the final score being what it was.
That was the only reason to keep it in the $4 for me.
For the uninitiated, Jacob Rodriguez, former Rider Raider quarterback, now playing linebacker at Tech.
Yeah.
I read an article. He missed a lot of games this year. I read an article that they're actually going to try to redshirt him.
And they could. I think, it goes back to a certain amount of games.
Yes, I think it's 4.
He'll get a medical redshirt. He should get a medical redshirt.
I think they're talking about sitting him the season finale so he doesn't play that 5th game.
Nice. Yeah. Good stuff. Love to hear that. And wish he stayed healthy because he's an impact player.
And that's a smart thing for player and team.
Yes.
Tech's going nowhere. They might get into a bowl game, but why not save a kid like that? Give him another 4-year eligibility.
Fantastic. Moving on to some upcoming college games. What we just talked about was this past Saturday. Upcoming Saturday, week 12 of the college football slate. Georgia, Tennessee at Rocky Top.
Might be a 50-point win
For Georgia.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. On the road, 50-point win. Second team in the country, 13th team in the country.
Here, in fact, I'll put it at 30. I'll put it at 30 or 28.5. So you guys.
What's the Vegas line?
I don't know. I'm going to put it at 28.5. How about that?
Okay.
I'm already hearing people calling for Heupel's job,
Which is crazy. Crazy. Yeah. But again, 2 of my buddies played him last week at Georgia. Sterling and John David, who were on the Ole Miss staff, and they just said that it's stupid how good they are. It's not even close. You looking up Vegas lines? Do I need to keep talking?
No, we're good. The Action Network has the Bulldogs at 9.5 right now.
Okay, 9.5 on Vegas. The Coach Free line is 28.5.
Triple it.
You can take it. You can take the over and still feel good.
Tennessee, congratulations. Print the shirts.
Print the shirts.
What shirts are you printing in that one? We played Georgia?
Yes, I guess.
We played Georgia at home, and game day showed up maybe. Right. I don't know where they are.
No, game day is in Harrisonburg, Virginia at James Madison.
Okay, this is where they do when they get the poo-poo weekends. They just go to random places.
I guess JMU's undefeated, and maybe McAfee had something to do with this. He likes to go to those random places. I don't know. James Madison. Good luck. Kansas State, Kansas. 25th ranked K-State, 16th ranked Kansas. Of course, we just talked about the Jayhawks, so what do we think here?
Will probably be the most boring game of top 25 teams in the –
Yawn.
Yeah, yawn. Kansas State, again, just the way they play, and Kansas is going to be on their third-string quarterback for a full game.
Kansas State still sitting there. Kansas State, Oklahoma State still sitting there with that somebody has to play Texas in the Big 12.
Again, let me ask this, though. That I make sure, I'm a coach. I love football. You guys are you love football. It's like the Penn State-Michigan game. Did that keep your attention the entire time?
Look, college football, I work Saturdays and I'm always out and about, so I catch college football intermittently, especially what's on NBC because that's our station and it's on in the newsroom. But no, to answer your question,
that's what I'm saying.
The post-game interviews and the on-field with that interim coach, that was pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, but again, would this game keep your attention? No. Kansas State, Kansas, I'm sorry, it's not keeping my attention.
How about
the next game on this list will keep my attention.
Yeah. No, I think Kansas State, Kansas, if I'm not mistaken, is not even on television. I think it's streaming on the Big 12 stream or whatever. So
great place for it, according to Coach Free. But yeah, like you said, speaking of keeping your attention, Washington, Oregon State, 5th ranked Washington, 12th ranked Oregon State. Why is this one going to keep your attention?
Michael Penix Jr. in offense in Washington. If you want my vote for who should be the 4 seed or that 4th playoff team, it's Washington. I've watched them a couple of times this year against Oregon. Watched them the other day. They are electric. They've got the receivers going everywhere. I mean, Penix Jr. throws the ball like no lefty I've ever seen. They are as fun to watch as an old Leach team. They are so much fun to watch on offense. They play just enough defense to be good, and allegedly Oregon State's pretty good with DJ Uyunglele.
Yeah, Oregon State's played well. Honestly, I'm a little surprised. That would have been a good game day game.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest with you.
I think they've already been out there a couple of times for Washington. But Washington is a blast to watch play.
Did you watch them last week?
I did.
Did you find yourself asking yourself, what are we doing?
Yes, a couple of times.
Cue the music.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Oh, not me singing the music? No, we have effects.
We do.
Oh, man.
Alfonso Tupatala. I may have butchered that name.
I liked it. It's fun.
He deserves it to be butchered, though. Because, man, what are we doing? So if you didn't watch the game, let's set the scene a little bit. He's a Washington linebacker, intercepts a pass, takes it to the end zone, almost. No one in front of him. one of those classic plays where a player wants to celebrate before they cross the goal line. He drops the ball, not like at the 6-inch. He drops it at like the 2-yard line.
Yes.
Yeah, it was way back.
And doesn't get into the end zone.
Therefore, fifth-year senior and never scored.
Fumbles.
Never scored.
Never.
Well, still hasn't.
Wow.
Fumbles at the 2, ball is recovered and going the other way. Coach Freeman.
Yep.
I've seen teams, Windthorst does this. Mm-hmm. Every time they score, kid is running through the back of the end zone, to the white at the back of the end zone. I love it because this will never happen in Windthorst.
Didn't Deshaun Jackson do this with the Eagles a few years ago?
This is the
against
Deshaun
Cowboys?
Jackson rule, yes.
It happens way too often. These
Too
guys
cool.
want to score, they want to celebrate, but they drop the ball before they cross the goal line. The worst is when they fumble it out of the end zone.
It's a touchback. It goes all the way out to the 20, which is the stupidest rule in football, by the way. Stupidest.
You know what's
rule in
stupider?
football.
Dropping the ball before you score.
I do agree.
What
with
are we
that.
doing?
Well, because again, what are we doing is right. What I come from the old school clientele of hand the ball to the ref. But I don't understand. I don't understand the hot potato wanting to get the ball out of your hand so fast. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It has to be, look, I've never done it. I've never played football. It has to be just this mental lapse where you think you scored and let's go celebrate with my team.
Well, and part of what a lot of them are doing is they're looking up at the board. They're watching themselves run into the end zone. And so there's no way. I mean, there's some delay on that. Like Chad would be the better person to describe that, but there's some delay on that. I mean, again, you don't really know. So they're not even looking down, half of them. If you ever watch when somebody's going in to score and then they show the shot of them watching, they're looking up. And so how would you ever know where you are? Stick your head down, run into the end zone, because at the end of the day, the goal is to score a touchdown, not to celebrate.
What do they say? Hit your head on the goalpost?
Yeah, something like that. Again,
Through the end zone.
And celebrating doesn't mean – I don't understand why this dropping the ball thing – where this came from. It just blows my mind of why we have to drop it or set it down or do whatever. Just hand it to the ref. Hand it to the ref.
Here's one better.
And also get off my lawn. That's what I sound like.
You'd think everything's a copycat. You know, they see these NFL guys do this. Well, you think Deshaun Jackson, the first time somebody does it stupidly before they get in the end zone, you'd think that would be enough to stop the whole thing.
It should never happen again, and it happens way too often. Yeah. My solution, take the fine, run through the end zone, chuck it 35 rows deep into the stands, because that way you cross the goal line.
Well, it's not a fine. In college, it's a 15-yard penalty.
Take the penalty.
And the excessive.
Yeah, and then in the NFL, it's a fine.
Yeah, you can't find the college kids.
Actually, now that you say that, an MSU kid took the ball, threw it into the stands yesterday. I didn't see a flag.
Really?
Saturday, rather. Yeah. Interception. He didn't score a touchdown, but he intercepted it, threw it up into the stands.
Just giving it to the military guys.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Honoring the military.
Anyway, Alfonso Tupatala is our weekly What Are We Doing?
I like it.
Sorry, I went ahead on our outline just to jump back because the Washington thing tied in. Let's talk about some national sports. Dallas Cowboys lay it on the New York Giants. The G-men, the New York football Giants, just a bad football team.
Was anybody surprised by that?
Get back to me when we beat a team that's good.
I mean,
that's where I'm at now.
Didn't the Giants have Danny DeVito playing quarterback?
Get back to me when we beat a good team.
That's Tommy DeVito.
Oh, Tommy DeVito. I'm sorry.
Don't even bring up the Cowboys until we beat a good team with me anymore. No more. I'm not diving in that anymore until we beat an actual good team.
All right.
So no discussion next week when they play the Panthers?
None.
I'm not going to say what I want to say, but the Rider Raiders and Hershey Huskies could beat the Panthers.
Well, okay. Cowboys have 3.
Get back to me when we beat a good team.
Here's my thing, and it's a TV thing, and I know this week maybe wasn't the best week, and MJ talked and I talked a little bit about it, and I know it's a ratings thing, and the Cowboys bring viewers. But, man, how could Fox make that America's game of the week?
Yeah, but, okay, what game would you like it to be? Because
That's what I'm saying. I know it was at
Jets,
the end
Raiders, last night. What's tonight?
That's true. And Thursday night
Bills.
was Bears. I don't even remember. It was bad. Bears.
Like, we have Bills. Who is tonight? It's somebody. It's Bills. Broncos.
Yes.
Bills, but get out of here.
Hey, Russell Wilson in prime time.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's some rough ones.
Yeah. The other 325 option would have been who did Arizona play? The 2-8 Cardinals played Atlanta.
Yeah, there were
Arizona,
some rough
Atlanta.
ones. I mean, there were some rough ones, and I know the Cowboys draw, and I know that's a lot of it.
Right. How about the Germany game? 9:30.
Oh,
9:30
Lord.
game on Sunday.
Again, talk about horrible game.
How bad are the New England Patriots?
They are so bad. How bad is Mac Jones?
What? Yeah.
Because the Colts scored 10 points and won a game.
10-6.
That's so bad. Like,
Get in the end zone. You're in the NFL.
this tells you how good the NFL slate was yesterday. Normally I'd sit and watch, or we always have it on if we're working. Like, I went and mowed the yard.
Nothing to see here.
No. Bad football.
There was some bad football.
Bad football.
Yesterday.
All right. Moving into our segment of the show where I like to learn. I'm a lifelong learner.
Okay.
And Coach Free's a great teacher. You might think, oh, just a coach. No, teacher as well.
Hey, and to think, when we move out of football, Coach Free also coached basketball, so he
That's
can explain
right.
some
Right.
basketball stuff as we roll into basketball.
Before I ask this question, when you were a teacher, what did you teach?
I was a special education teacher in the
Okay.
history department.
In
So
history.
I worked with, I would do pullouts with different kids and work with them on history stuff.
U.S. history, world history,
All of it.
all of the above?
Yeah, all
Okay.
of it.
Football history.
Yeah, there you go. Right? There's a class on that in
My
college.
specialty was
History
U.S.
football.
history.
Okay, U.S. history. Well, this is football, and it's not history; it's modern day. Last week we talked about the scat back. That was a term I had, come to hear more often. Here's another term that I've heard more recently: the term sniffer.
Okay.
And my new boss at work, his last name is Snuffer.
Okay.
We're not talking about him, and we're not talking about sniffing.
Okay.
Not Snitker.
No, none of the above. But sniffer.
Okay.
Who, what, when, where, why?
Okay, so a sniffer back or an H back is basically a hybrid between. Basically, it's the reincarnation if a tight end and a fullback had a baby.
Okay.
Tight end and a fullback had a baby. So basically, what a lot of teams do now is they're basically taking the tight end off the line, putting him behind the line in what we would call a wing situation, where he's outside of the tackle or outside of another tight end, a down lineman, or if he's a sniffer, he's inside the formation. So he's basically in he could be in the gap between the guard and the tackle. He can be in the gap between the center and the guard. He can move along those lines. You can flex him out, slide him out as a slot receiver, which is what we do. Or you can put him in the backfield and stand him directly beside the quarterback and use him as a fullback, or put him down on the line as a tight end. So basically, what it does is it gives you the option to take the tight end up off of the line to be able to move him around. And lots of people do use that in different ways. They'll use a pass-catching tight end to leak him out in the flat or sneak him up the middle. They'll use a tight end or more of a fullback type to just block, seal the edge, or lead. Or they'll use we've done it, and you've seen the Cowboys and some other teams do it. We'll put a receiver there or another back there, and we'll use them as a person in the run game or in the pass game or in the screen game. And we've at different times used a extra offensive lineman and basically used them and let them move around. I think the 49ers are famous for doing that right now. They'll put them as a H-back or a sniffer. They'll put him in motion and run as fast as you can. You just see Trent Williams do that last year at the end, defensive end. So now you got 350 pounds going as fast as it can in motion, because now they're off the line. You can motion them and go as fast as they can and torpedo that in, and they don't like that.
No, I'm sure.
Where's the term sniffer come from?
He's sniffing the butt of the guard and tackle.
Oh, okay.
That's where he lines up. So he's in the gap sniffing the butt of the guard and tackle. So a lot of it came from a defense, so they're seeing him. He's sniffing right there. He's inside the line but trying to hide.
Interesting. Okay. Well, there's your sniffer, tight end / H-back / every other word.
Some of the things that what a lot of all this stuff has come from just being able to be flexible with pieces. We just look at pieces so differently now, where used to you'd have a tight end, you'd have a fullback, you'd have a running back. Now we just take those pieces and make them flexible.
Any other sports-related stuff before I really derail this podcast with our random thought of the week?
It's totally fine to derail it.
Okay. Chad, what are we at for time?
We were at 44 minutes.
We're doing great.
Perfect. Awesome. So this is actually different than what is on the outline that I gave you all today, because I heard this on the radio coming over here this morning.
Okay.
It is November 12th. Christmas is December the 25th.
I know where you're going with this.
So, a couple of questions regarding, is it appropriate? When is it appropriate to start playing Christmas music on the radio? Chad.
I don't want to hear it till after Thanksgiving.
Okay. Coach Free?
Never.
Wow. Okay. I'm with Chad. November the 26th.
Yeah, I'm again, let me say this. I am a huge Thanksgiving guy. It's my favorite holiday of the year. So I quit disrespecting Thanksgiving in the grand scheme of all of it. Do not disrespect Thanksgiving. In fact, my wife and I had this conversation this weekend. She wanted to decorate for Christmas because we'll be gone over the next couple of weeks. And she's like, man, we're not going to have time. And we can go ahead and do it now because we're at home this weekend. And like, no, we're not decorating. Or Coach Free is not decorating before Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving is the holiest of all holidays.
That is exactly where I was going. I started with music. The second is decorations.
Okay.
My coworker, Dylan Jimenez, he put up his Christmas tree in his apartment.
Okay.
November 1st, the day after Halloween. Way, way, way too early.
I know other people that do that too. We have arguments all the time, but I may put up my Christmas lights the weekend before Thanksgiving, depending on when you start looking at weather. Like, okay, it's going to be 75 today, or it's going to be 20 next weekend. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe I'll go ahead and put the Christmas lights up. But that's the only reason.
I have a routine where the day after Thanksgiving is a big football day, so I don't have time to put up a tree that day. Saturday is one of my busier days at work, so that ain't happening. The Sunday after Thanksgiving,
that's your day?
That's my day. My tree goes up. I'll start playing the music through the Bluetooth speaker.
Okay.
Anytime before that, sacrilegious.
Now, I know Scott Ponder, former rider coach, Petrolia coach all over the area. I heard him one time say that he didn't put up Christmas decorations or do any Christmas shopping until his football season was over.
Oh, wow. So if they play in the state championship,
so
that's
made
like the
some
16th.
deep runs, and I'm sure his wife appreciated those 2 weeks of getting stuff together. So.
I'm fine with that, but just so you know, like of all the Christmas characters out there, my favorite is the Grinch. So, that should tell you kind of where Coach Free is at.
So I'm making a note of this now for next week, for next week's podcast, because it'll be Thanksgiving week, and it's your favorite holiday. We're going to go through ideal meal, what foods are and aren't allowed on Thanksgiving.
So we will not have a Christmas sweater edition of this podcast.
Well, me and you can, Chad.
Can.
He's going to sit there in his suit.
Yeah.
What a suit, this guy.
Yeah. So, again, Chris Ketter and I had this conversation on our pregame talks about he is in love, like wholeheartely in love with the Little Debbie's Christmas tree cakes, even though all it is the same cake as like it's the same thing they make just in generic, but just with a Christmas decoration. But he says no. And, he eats boxes of them
That's
at
healthy.
a time. Yeah, I figured out the calorie count for him, and he wasn't fazed. But it's Christmas tree cake season for him, so he's excited. I can't just again, I loved when my kids were little. Like, I loved watching them go, but give me Thanksgiving every day.
I'm a big Thanksgiving guy as well.
Food, sit there, happy.
Sit there.
What else are you worried about? that is
Congratulations.
That's a great day. Congrats, print the shirts.
All right. I think that's all we got.
So Grant's not camping out at Walmart at 5 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day.
Black Friday?
Waiting for the doors to open or anything like that.
So again, mass quantities of people, not my thing. But definitely not at Walmart, also not my thing. So the call ahead thing or wherever you can just go pull up.
That's the best thing ever.
The best thing they've ever come up with.
Absolutely agreed.
We can talk Black Friday next week as well.
Sounds great.
All right. So actually, we got to talk about that offline too, because next week's Thanksgiving week, and MJ's flying back to Boston for a few days.
Okay.
So we'll work on scheduling for that. Anyway, I guess that does it for another edition of the official WFISD Athletics podcast. If you're listening to us on Spotify, we appreciate it. Little share, comment. Here's another thing we might start in the coming weeks. So if you want to mentally prepare yourself,
fixing the lights that are directly over me.
That is one of the things.
At least
yes,
it's a different one this week.
If we're branching out with our listeners here, maybe we'll take like a mailbag segment at some point if we got questions from the viewers. So I guess we'll let those accrue here over the next 2 or 3 weeks during the holidays. Send us a question, a comment. We'll see if we can get on the podcast here maybe early December. So if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube or any channel, and you want to hear Coach Free, Chad, and MJ talk about something, send it in,
that'd
please.
Be great. There's a lot of questions that I've gotten about the podcast, and none of them that we can share on the air.
Okay, family-friendly questions, comments.
We are a school district.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
We are, but yeah, we would love that. That would be great, and a bunch of interest in the podcast. I think Chad put it up last week. I think in over an hour we had over 1,000 views on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
And so we love it.
Maybe another segment too. Teach Coach Free about analytics.
Nothing. No, nothing about it.
Nothing. Oh, that's a bad sign. I think Yeah, we got to teach Coach Freeman.
Go with your gut, Coach.
For those of you out there watching, we really appreciate it. If there's actually 1,000 of you, awesome. I think we're talking impressions on Twitter rather than views.
Sounds great. Impressions. 1,000 impressions.
We'll take it. Hey, we're growing.
We're growing.
We are on the ground level,
right.
taking an elevator up to the top floor before you know it.
We almost have a sponsor.
News to me.
I can't share that information yet because it's not fully finished.
Stay tuned for a potential sponsor.
Potential sponsor. Get ready.
All right. Chad, cue up the music, please. We want to thank our friends over at bensound.com, Sound Bible, for our beautiful effects and all the good stuff that comes with it. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week from the Sanctuary.